Hi everyone, thank you for taking the time to listening to this US Sports Scholarship information session. My name is Rob Thomas and I'm the director here at Sporting Elite USA. This information session is going to go over all of the information that you need to know if you're thinking to start down the sports scholarship route, and to also just give you enough information to decide if it's the right route for you. So to start off with, when looking at the US sports scholarship options and just university in general, I always like to start off with just some facts and figures about US universities, as the size of universities are immense. They're huge compared to what we're used to in Europe, in Australia, Asia, all over the world. So if you look at Stanford, to start off with, if they were a country, they would have finished 8th in the 2016 Olympics with their past and current students, their medal table. You can look at the monetary side of things. You've got University of Alabama and even more recently, University of Clemson. So University of Clemson's head coach, Dabo Swinney, his annual salary last year was $9.3 million, which is an astronomical amount of money. You can look at the UCLA sponsorship deal. It's a 15-year deal. That equates to approximately $16.4 million a year for UCLA. And then you can also look at the largest attendance at college games. The University of Michigan has the biggest stadium in America, college stadium anyway, which holds 107,000 people. And the top 8 stadiums in America all hold over 100,000 people. So it's a huge, huge deal, university and college sport in the US, and they fill them stadiums out more often than not. That is one of the areas where they get funding from to offer sports scholarships to American or international students all over the world, by filling out the stadiums, by selling merchandise, and also through TV partnerships. So if you look at CBS, they've recently extended their TV deal for their basketball March Madness competition. That was an 8-year extension that was valued at $8.8 billion. So this is $1.1 billion just coming through March Madness, the college basketball end of year playoff competition. Now, there are other TV deals for different sports. And again, all of this money then gets divided up between the US universities. When looking at a US university, again, one thing you want to think about is what is going to be the right size for you. You look at University of Arizona, they've got 60,000 undergrads on campus. Now, that is the population of Wimbledon in the UK, to put that into perspective. There are smaller universities as well. So again, that's something you need to think about, what is going to be right for you. You can go to a uni that has less than 1,000 people on campus if that's what you feel would be the right fit. Now, looking at academics, it's something that quite often gets overlooked by students and families, especially if they're going down the sporting route. Not always, but again, sometimes is. Now, academics is a huge factor in terms of getting the right scholarship for you, and being able to have as many options as well. So anyone that looks on the NCAA website and is looking at their eligibility and whether they'll be eligible or not, you'll see quite often the terminology 16 core courses mentioned. Now, 16 core courses relates to what subjects you study at either GCSE, A-level, BTEC, or whatever country you're from. Anywhere in Europe, again, Africa, Asia, you name it. But you have to have studied specific subject areas. So English, maths, and physical science are the three first key subjects. Then the fourth one would be in social science. So that's geography, history, sociology, economics, psychology. And then the fifth subject could be an additional social science, a foreign language, philosophy, or religious studies. Now, there are waivers in place now where if it wasn't compulsory for you to study one of these subjects, then you can still receive your eligibility. It's a bit longer process, but again, it doesn't mean that you can't compete in the US if you haven't done these subjects, but it does make life easier if you have. Now, you'll need to also do an SAT or an ACT exam. A lot of students have heard of the SAT, but not as many have heard of the ACT. Firstly, US universities have no preference between the two. You can study whichever test you want to do and whichever one you feel was best suited to your academic strengths. As a general rule of thumb, the SAT is more suited to the students that are really strong at maths. The ACT, maths isn't as hard, plus the maths isn't big enough. If you look at the SAT, maths covers 50% of the overall mark, where the ACT only covers 25%. So the ACT is a bit more time pressured. But again, it comes down to what you work out is going to be best for you. You can do an online diagnostic test. Now, you can do this for free online. So if anyone is interested in doing that diagnostic test, just feel free to get in touch with us. We can send you the link. And again, you can do it at home whilst you're at this current moment. Universities have no preference between the two, and the NCAA have no preference between the two. The proof of subjects taken in high school. So every student will need to provide what they call a transcript. This is something that your school will produce, and it basically is a list of subjects that you've studied, what grades that you got, when you started them, when you're expected to finish them, on headed paper from the school and signed by your exams officer or a headmaster at the school, anyone who deals with that at your current school. So one thing I always like to touch upon is Ivy League universities. Now, the Ivy League is a terminology that a lot of people have heard of, but don't actually know the true meaning of what it actually stands for. So a lot of people tell me, oh, the Ivy League are the top academic universities in America, the Russell Group equivalent, you could say. Now, Ivy League has no academic meaning to it whatsoever. The Ivy League is a sports conference, and that's the only meaning it has. Now, the universities that compete in the Ivy League are extremely strong and competitive, but they're not the only strong academic universities in the US. So you can see the 8 Ivy League universities you have here: Harvard, Princeton, Brown, Yale, UPenn, Columbia, Dartmouth, and Cornell. You'll notice some very strong academic unis not included on there, like Stanford, Cal Berkeley, UCLA, Duke, and the list goes on and on. So just bear that in mind. They're not the only strong universities out there. Now, another thing, a really important thing to remember, now this goes for Ivy League and Division III universities, is that they're not able to offer sports scholarships. So Ivy League universities are need-based. So they will look at your income and outgoing of your family and say, based off of this, we feel you can afford to pay X, Y, or Z. Division III universities as well, they might be need-based, they might be able to offer academic aid, but again, there's not going to be any sports scholarship funding at these institutions. Now, if you are a talented athlete and you really want to go to one of these unis and you might get some good need-based funding or academic grants, then being an athlete can help support your application and make it much easier for you to get admitted to the university, and you can get in, well, sort of have a good idea of whether you're going to get accepted earlier than most. Now, I mentioned the NCAA a couple of times. The NCAA is one of the 3 governing bodies of college sports. Now, you've got the NCAA, the NAIA, and the NJCAA. The NCAA is broken up into 3 divisions, and as I just touched upon, Division III don't offer sports scholarships. Division I and Division II, however, can. There are just over 23 different sports that can offer scholarship funding in the NCAA, with 1,300 institutions that can offer that compete under their umbrella. The NCAA universities do tend to be bigger, with much bigger infrastructures and more money to invest into their sports, coaching, facilities, stadiums, etc. And to be able to compete in the NCAA, you need to have a minimum GPA of 2.3. The minimum GPA of a 2.3 equates to roughly a low D in terms of A, B, C, D. So again, it's not the highest of levels, but again, different universities will have higher requirements than this. 2.3 is the minimum requirement that the NCAA set. And as I touched upon earlier, you will need to do an SAT or an ACT test. Now, the NAIA, which is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, they have 1 division outside of basketball, which has 2 divisions, 13 different sports, and just over 250 universities compete under the NAIA's umbrella. They tend to be smaller universities, but there are some very strong universities still that compete in this division. There are some very strong graphic design universities there, and some very, very strong sports programs in the NAIA, especially in tennis and golf. Now, the NAIA have a different way of working out the student's eligibility. So for them, you have to meet 2 of 3 specific criteria. The first one is to have a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. The second option is to have a certain score on the SAT or the ACT to meet their minimum score requirements. And the third option is to graduate in the top 50% of your high school class. So any 2 of them 3 will then make you eligible to compete under the NAIA's umbrella. The NJCAA is the third option. Now, NJCAA is a junior college, so this is a 2-year institution, whereas the NCAA and NAIA are 4-year institutions. People will start off at junior college for a number of reasons, maybe because they haven't met the academic criteria of either of the other 2 governing bodies. Maybe they haven't built up enough exposure to justify big enough scholarship funding, so they'll go to a junior college as it's a slightly cheaper option, and it gets them out into the US to put themselves in the shop window, because then after a year or 2 they can transfer to an NCAA or an NAIA university and finish off their final 2 years there. There are 3 divisions in NJCAA, and they have 17 different sports available, with just over 500 different institutions competing under the NJCAA umbrella. Now, the minimum GPA here is a 1.0, and you don't need to do an SAT or an ACT to compete here. Here's a list of some sports that you can get scholarship funding in, how many colleges compete in them sports. So a real variety of different sports available out there for men and for women. Now, there are different scholarship numbers for male and female athletes. And again, if there is someone out there that wants to know what sort of figures there are for your specific sport for either male or female, please get in touch. I'm happy to provide that information to you. So I like to sort of also show the experience of what being a student athlete means, what opportunities that you can have there. So at the top left, you've got a field hockey player at the University of Iowa. This is her boarding a private jet to go to an away match, as you do. It's pretty impressive. I know when I was at school, I was always taking minivans or coaches everywhere. This just shows how the US do things bigger. Not everyone goes to away matches on private jets, and obviously it depends where you're going, but that is something that they had available to them. Now, bottom left, we've got a rower. This is a rower that attended Michigan State. Now, when she went out there, she didn't know anything about American football, but it just shows the team mentality that she had on a Saturday morning or early afternoon even, going to watch a rivalry game, Michigan against Michigan State, in-state game, and she's there with the rest of her team, the rowers, supporting her university where all the students will be sitting together and having a great day. Top right has got a picture of a track and field athlete we've got out in America right now. Now, this is the clothing and equipment that she was given when she arrived at Duke University. So you'll see there's gloves, there's tracksuit bottoms, there's hoodies, rucksacks, spikes, you name it. All of that is provided, and different universities will have different brands. So at that time, Duke had Nike, UCLA, as I mentioned earlier, have Under Armour, and some will have Puma, Adidas, etc. And then this bottom right university is a university that we really do like, been there a couple of times now, is Elon University. Now, Elon University is one of the most picturesque campuses in the US, and also has very strong academics and a number of different strong sports programs. So it's definitely one to consider if you haven't already. So when looking at the US, you might have heard or come across terminology like the NLI and scholarship offers. So the NLI stands for National Letter of Intent, and what a full scholarship offer actually looks like, and what does it include. So a full scholarship, first of all, includes all of your tuition, all of your accommodation, 3 meals a day plus snacks, school books, medical insurance, and sports clothing, equipment, and travel. So what does this look like? So this when you look at the US university system, it will provide with a Stanford full scholarship and a Miami full scholarship. Stanford's is a 4-year scholarship, so it shows here for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, the amount of each year and how much of that is covered. Now, just because it's a 4-year scholarship, it doesn't mean that every university is going to offer that. Actually, most universities offer scholarships like Miami. So University of Miami, you'll see, is a 1-year scholarship, and that automatically rolls over year after year. And their figures show how much the tuition costs, fees, room, board, book supplies, etc., etc. And then at the end, it shows the actual total percentage, which in this case was 100%. So these are what scholarship agreements will actually look like. Now, if you're thinking, right, I like the sound of everything I've heard so far, what do I need to do? What other tasks do I need to do? So when you're going throughout the whole recruiting process, before you can get that scholarship offer, you need to have registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center. The NCAA are going to confirm your academic status and your amateurism status. You'll need to send documents off to the NCAA to confirm that you meet all of the criteria that they've set out. And you'll also have to do the same thing with the NAIA. Again, you won't do both, you'll do one or the other, depending on what universities are interested in recruiting you, offering scholarship funding to you, and what governing body they come under. You'll also need to go down the US student visa process, a number of different forms that you need to complete, and you'll need to go to an interview at the US Embassy. And again, these are things that we can help with along the way. So going on to that, how we can help through the recruiting process. So first of all, to sort of make things clear, you have two options. You can try to do the recruiting process on your own, or you can have someone like us guide you through the process. Now, if we guide you through the process, what we do is we tailor a college search that meets your criteria. That's academics, that's sporting, and that's the experience and way of life that you're looking for. So again, if you say that your key criteria for you is to study psychology, then there's no point getting a full scholarship at a university that doesn't offer psychology. So it's about making that clear. If you have a preference to specific locations or a specific climate or a competitive level from a sporting standpoint. Again, so that is how we tailor our search. We work with every single university in the US, so there are no limitations to what universities we can speak to. Once we know that, we produce a sporting CV for you with all of the information that a coach needs to know when deciding, is this student going to be someone that we want to recruit? Then we put together video footage. So if you're from a team sport, we'll put together a highlight reel for you that we can then distribute to the relevant university coaches along with the CV. Now, we've got staff here that have been doing this for over 15 years, got experience placing students from over 26 different countries. So we've got strong relationships with a number of coaches in the US. We've got students at your big name universities, whether it be your Ivy Leagues, your Stanfords, your UCLAs, Cal Berkeley's, Dukes, etc., etc. But we've also got students at universities that a lot of people haven't heard of initially. But that's because they were good fits for them individuals. And again, it's having an open mind, exploring the options and seeing what's going to be the right fit for you. When working with students, again, we speak to coaches in a number of different ways. We speak to them on the phone, we speak to them over email, over WhatsApp, and we also fly out to the US a few times a year to actually meet with coaches, to meet with past students, to see how they're getting on, what they're liking, maybe what they're not liking, so we can then relay that advice onto future students as well. And throughout the whole recruiting process, we're there as a point of contact to guide you through every aspect. If you have any questions about the different universities expressing an interest, then we'll go through them with you. We'll explain what our recommendations would be and why we recommend them universities, so you and your family can look over them and make an informed decision at the end. We'll guide you through things like the SAT and ACT test, the NCAA or NAIA Eligibility Center, and the US student visa process as well, and being able to maximize scholarship opportunities for you. So a summary on some of the main things that I've gone through. Whether you want us to help you or you want to do it on your own, the coach is always going to be the first point of contact, because the coach is going to be the person that decides whether you can compete and whether you can train as part of the sports program. It doesn't matter if you get accepted into the university or not. If the coach doesn't want you part of the program, you won't be playing. There are scholarship limitations for each sport. And an example for this is NCAA Division I track and field. Every college can offer men up to 12.6 scholarships each, and female athletes can get up to 18 scholarships each. Now, if we use the female 18 scholarships each just for an example, that means coaches could, if they wanted to, offer 36 50% scholarships. And this is where the academics comes into things. So if you are a strong academic student, you can also get academic funding on top of sports funding and combine the two together. That, again, will make you a much more attractive option to a coach, because they could offer you an 80% sports scholarship, but you might be eligible also for a 20% academic scholarship. So you're then automatically getting 100%, even though the coach is using 80% of their budget. Scholarships can increase from year to year. They can decrease as well. However, the more likely option is a scholarship increase based off of your academic and sporting performance. Decreases are rare. To have a scholarship decrease, you'd have to have got arrested, failed a drug test, or just have a terrible attitude towards training, towards the coaching staff, and a prolonged level of poor performance in your sport. You can also have the opportunity of 5 official visits. Now, an official visit is where a college will pay to fly you out to America to look around the campus, meet the coaching staff, to meet the guys or the girls in the sports program you're looking to join, and to also sit in on a lecture, just to get a real feel for what it's like being a student on that campus. Each visit is up to 48 hours, and again, once you've done them visits, there are no sort of commitments for you that you have to go there, but again, it just gives you that opportunity to explore all of the options before you make that final decision for yourself. And on top of that, as I touched upon in the last slide, registering with the NCAA is a really important factor. You can't receive any scholarship offers, and you can't go on any official visits until you've registered with the NCAA or the NAIA. So it's good to get that done sooner rather than later. Now, thank you for listening. I hope you found that helpful. If you do have any other questions, feel free to go onto our website, or you can email us at inquiries@sportingeliteusa.com. You can call us, or you can go contact us via social media. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.